Hi guys, welcome back to the show where we're bringing the latest in AI news and sharing our views. Listen, before we dive into it, guys, hit the like, hit the subscribe, and say hi in the comments. We're a new channel, so your support is hugely, hugely appreciated, and your support will help us grow and reach more people, and hopefully help lots of people as well. That's the aim. So, Will, what have we got today to share with our amazing audience?
I kind of want to do a summary of the week, if I'm honest, Ben, because it has been a fantastic week for open source, for local LLM development, and this is what I love to see. And I know you're going to love to hear this as well, because we're building Whisper. We're also doing a lot of open source work ourselves in the privacy first, local first sort of AI world, and to see the community winning so hard, it's landing some amazing blows this week. And it's literally like forcing companies like OpenAI to release models early. We spoke about that literally the other day. I think that's the video coming out today, actually. And these code reds, and these are all like open source models. So I want to do maybe a brief shout out and talk about one of the big companies that are pushing frontier models out there, completely open source, completely for free, and some of the best intelligence that runs on your devices right now, on your phones, on your laptops. And yeah, that's what I want to talk about. I want to share some of that with you, if that is
Awesome.
okay, Ben.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that, I just shared with you before we jumped on here how a friend of mine is using Whisper AI, and it blew her mind when she started using it, and without the internet. And I think that's the thing, is these local models don't just create cool, capability of being able to use it offline, but actually fundamentally, like you touched on, it's about privacy, about sovereign AI, and these are really sort of important, I guess, deep philosophical perspectives that are important, but high level, cool. Yeah, no internet, I can use it, amazing. That's a good, that's a cool party trick. But actually, there's a lot more depth to it. So, Will, I love all these small models. We're innovating in this space, and the more we can share with the audience about, the power of the small models and the utility,
100%.
the better.
What I would love to do today is shout out to a French company. You may have heard of it, but you may not have. It's called Mistral AI. I mean, it's one of the few companies to actually come out of Europe that are doing something good in the technology world, because you know what Europe's like. We're in Europe. It's very hard to be a tech company on this continent. They seem hell-bent on making sure that you don't succeed. But Mistral AI are doing really well. They're very much pioneers of open source, open intelligence, edge deployment. That's what we call, running these models on your laptop, on your computer, on your own infrastructure. And they have come up with some incredible open source models, and it's been mind-blowing. I mean, OpenAI have released like 3 models this year total. They have come out and released, I think, 6, off the bat, and they're all incredible. So the first one is the new Mistral 3 models, but also they released something called the Mistral models. Now, the Mistral models are the tiny... Yeah, yeah. Here we go. Mistral 3, state-of-the-art intelligence at the edge. And their Mistral models come in 3 flavors. They come in their 3B flavor, 8B flavor, and 14B flavor, all of which I can run on my laptop. One of which, potentially two of which...
For the audience, sorry, Will, just for the audience, in case you don't know, 3B, 8B, 14B is basically the size of the model, and that will directly impact on, whether your device is capable of handling that size of model effectively. So,
absolutely.
Just quickly jumping in there, Will.
Yes or no, but so 3B is 3 billion parameters, which still sounds like a lot, and it is. And a parameter, you can essentially think of it, if you aren't in this world, you can think of it like a neuron in the brain. So a brain made up of 3 billion neurons is the smallest one. And all of which run on my laptop, 2 of which run on my iPhone, which is incredible. And if you try these models, they're totally open source, by the way. All the weights are open. You can pull them, run them, have them, run them. You don't have to pay Mistral anything. They've just released it. And if you've tried them, they are incredible models for the size. Even the 3B can accomplish coding tasks, which are some of the most traditionally hard ones to accomplish. And the 8B and the 14B are certainly excellent. They're absolutely game-changing. They're the best tiny models that I have tried, and normally I am disappointed because, I want the space to be moving faster, and, it takes a long time to develop these things. But these models are genuinely big hitters. So we can talk about that. And then the last one I want to quickly share with you is what they released just the other day, and it's been rolling out again open source. Let me share my screen. Is their specific coding models, the DevStral 2 model. I know all their model names are quite funny. But the DevStral models are their specific coding flavors. And again, these models are incredible. A 24B one is the one that I'm most interested in. And again, that is just about small enough for me to run on my laptop. It's going to struggle on consumer hardware. You're going to have something pretty high end, but you can run it on your own computer. It's totally open weight. And I just want to highlight the benchmarks. In coding, there's something called the SWE benchmark. And, people have different opinions on how like true these benchmarks are against real world tasks. But I like to think that they're pretty good. And they do correlate quite well. And the DevStral Small 2, which is the 24 billion parameter variety, is performing better than some of the largest models that we had just 18 months ago, 12 months ago. And I can run it on my laptop now. It's scoring, I don't know if you can see that there, Ben, 68%. Now that is on par with some of the largest, most proprietary models going. Even, you have Grok Code, which is by XAI, which is only scoring marginally better than the 24B open source, open weight on your computer model. You've got,
and that's
Gemini.
From Grok 18 months ago, are you saying?
No, this is Grok 6 months ago.
Wow.
So even tighter timeframes. We used back along, we used a model called Claude Sonnet 3.5 by Anthropic. 3.5 was a great model at coding. It was a lot of people's first dips into sort of proper agentic coding. DevStral Small 2 is better than that by almost 20% on this benchmark. It performs hugely better at coding tasks.
Wow.
And Claude Sonnet 3.5 required data centers, it required subscriptions, it required you to API in. Now you can run you can run a model that is 20% better on your laptop today. Incredible. Even Gemini 3 Pro. Yeah, sorry, even Gemini 3 Pro, which was released only a few weeks ago, and Claude Sonnet 4.5, they're scoring less than 10% better than this 24 billion parameter model. Is a huge win for open source. And I actually think these frontier model providers are going to start to shit their pants, because going are the days where you need an API, you need a subscription, you can just download the model and you can run it. I demoed just the coding ones there, but again, the Mistral models, you can use them for blog writing. They're very effective at that. And anything, it's just a huge win. And I thought, we've got to celebrate that being in our space. So anyway, that's what I wanted to talk about.
No, 100%. It's really, really interesting. I was listening to a blog with AWS or podcast, and Spencer shared it with me. I haven't got through the whole podcast, so I can't. I haven't got any notes to hand to sort of properly summarize. But it was really interesting because they're talking about sovereign AI. What is sovereign AI? And they're coming up with all these reasons or all these definitions of what sovereign AI. And again, I want to talk about this a bit more because it's really interesting. Because basically, they were positioning it as something along the lines of you own your data, but there's also security and there's sort of privacy. But ultimately, the security is down to them, because you can trust us and we're going to invest more than you can possibly ever do yourself. So you might as well just let us do it effectively. And security, again, we're able to, we're at the cutting edge of this and we're dealing with it all the time. So therefore we're a lot better than you could ever be, type sort of perspective, obviously said in a fluffier way. And we can spin up data centers all over the place. If one goes down, all this. But to me, sovereign AI isn't about any of that. It's about freedom and privacy, private thinking and private intelligence. And that's at its crux, and that's at its core. Yes, security has to come into it, but that's almost the next layer that has to be thought about. When Bitcoin, for example, was created, it was created as free, independent, private money. People had to build in this, layer on the security and the wallets that had the security and making sure that the protocol was sound and secure and all the rest of it. And yes, security is important, but it's interesting how the big cloud providers are very much sort of talking about sovereign AI in something I think very fundamentally different to what it should be, which is it goes back to the Bitcoin analogy, is you own your own keys and that's the end of it. If you own your own keys, that's your self-custody. You're in control of your own money, no one else. And, you're not outsourcing it to an exchange. You're not outsourcing that responsibility to somebody else. You're taking personal responsibility for the security, the privacy of your own money. And I feel so deeply about it in terms of the sovereign AI space. It is exactly the same principles. You don't own your intelligence. If you're not in control of your intelligence, then you don't own your intelligence, and you're just outsourcing it to big tech. So it's just really interesting. And these small models are absolutely going to be front and center of this battle that we're going to have.
Yeah, I think what you're going to see more and more is cloud providers like AWS, like Google Cloud, whatever flavor you use from one of the big tech companies, is they're going to see these models getting better and better, and they've invested a lot of money in infrastructure to support this. And naturally, they're going to see them getting smaller and more people running them locally and better software wrapping around them, so you don't have to be technical to do it, like we are with Whisper AI. That, of course, they're going to come out with a lot of arguments here trying to say, this is what sovereign AI is, these are the benefits of using cloud providers. And of course, they're going to do that. I think you can negate almost every argument that they have there by just, well, it's on my computer. There you go. The end of discussion. That is self-sovereignty by definition. Encryption is one thing. Okay, I don't need to encrypt it if it's on my computer. It's done. It's on my computer. Security. Well, it's on my computer. What I don't need. I've got bigger problems if my personal computer is being hacked. It's not the technology itself. Yes, you may need some security, I suppose, when you're thinking about downloading these models to make sure that these models are not malicious and not doing the same things. But that technology will also come, as it does with software. You free download software, and you're okay. Almost every argument that a cloud provider can make about why it's better is slowly being negated and will just be irrelevant because you can just run it on your computer. You can choose. But it's going to happen more and more because they're going to have to rethink their business models because they've invested so much in this.
Well, I mean, it's interesting because I'm writing about these sort of topics at the moment with my sort of essays. And it's interesting because when you look back, it was personal computers. The computer was your personal computer. What you did stayed on the computer, your device. And then slowly, we outsourced it to the cloud. And the cloud have effectively captured it for convenience, for speed, for scale. And I get all that.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's interesting. I think there's going to be a full circle. I think there is still going to be I don't think ultimately it's all going to be on device. I think it's going to be a combination of users choosing what they do on a device and then choosing what they use the cloud for, what they use the internet for, and maybe being in more control of what is shared, what data is leaked, and all the rest of it. So I think that's the interesting future that we're going to sort of eventually sort of lead to. Well, that's the future we're building.
Yeah, naturally. I think certainly what will happen is all these models eventually, whether that is in 1 year. It feels like it's been accelerated this last couple of months. Whether it's in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 10 years, there's going to come a point when every model runs on device. You're not going to have to worry about a cloud provider for the model itself. It's going to be about the software that wraps it and building great products around the models that you can run on your device. There is going to be a point in time where you're not going to notice any difference between what you've got now, and it's already arguably there in some use cases, between the Frontier ChatGPT 5.2, which was just released, and what you can run on your phone. I mean, we've just already been demonstrated today with DevStral B, a model that runs on my laptop, performing 20% better than that was considered state of the art. Everyone was amazed and wowed by it as of months ago. I think there will always be a place for cloud. Yeah. Sorry, mate. No, you go. No, I was going to say there's going to always be a place for cloud, but it won't be for hosting models. Unless, of course, you need to distribute it across enterprises and things like that. But again, own cloud, company self-sovereignty will be the important thing there. For individuals like you and I, won't need it.
No, absolutely. And the marginal gains, the differences, like you said, I think all the models will converge and there won't be a huge difference in performance and they'll get smaller and smaller. It does beg the question of, and we've talked about it before, what that looks like for this investment they're putting into data centers and consuming huge amounts of energy and capital costs. So again, we've talked about that. I tend to. My instinct is it's I don't know. It could just blow up at some point, but we'll see. Well, I don't know. It's just it doesn't add up to me. And we talked about in one of the previous videos, the investment cost is so extreme that you just think, well, how is that ever going to be paid back? And I don't think it is. So we talked about that. We won't go on about it before. But yeah, so interesting, really interesting. Well, I think this is the
Exactly.
next sort of evolution of AI is definitely on device. It's sovereign AI, and this is the future. If you care about privacy, you've got to be waking up to this.
It's been a very, very exciting week for open source AI, and I think it really is starting to paint the picture that we've been talking about, but without really, we're saying it's coming. It's really painting the picture of what it actually looks like, because I know, Ben, I'd urge you to use the models as well. Just remember how small they are when you run them. It's mind-blowing technology.
Awesome. Well, listen, guys, let us know what you think in the comments. It'd be great to get your feedback, your opinions. Tell us if we're right. Tell us if we're wrong. And tell us if there's something else we need to maybe consider and think about.
Of course.
It's sort of, this is a two-way sort of conversation. We're showing you our thoughts, giving you our opinions. We want to hear from you as well. So hit the like, subscribe, and say hi in the comments. Otherwise, we'll catch you on the next one. Take care, guys.
Cheers, guys.